Okay. Welcome back to the Caribou Outdoors podcast. With me today is Amber Liljestrand from Pnuma Outdoors. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Thanks for joining me tonight. I
Of course.
appreciate it. I recently joined your Canadian team a couple months ago, which is pretty cool. And I love this stuff so much. Now I am wearing this. I will wear this around the house sometimes. I think it's probably the most comfortable shirt I own.
It is so comfortable. The fabric on that is it's perfect. You just nailed it. It's so buttery soft.
Yeah, it's amazing. I've gone on a couple of podcasts with Dave from Hellcat Outdoors, and he and I have been wearing it at the same time. I'm like, people are going to think we called each other before we jumped on here.
It happens a lot. We end up at trade shows, and we all end up wearing the same thing. We're wearing Renegade Swift, and we're wearing Prevail pants, like all of us. It was just so funny. We all wear the same thing.
Those pants, the Prevail pants, are probably the most comfortable pants I've ever worn for hunting, hands down.
Yeah, we've heard that across the board. It's been well received this year. It was a new product that we launched this year. We really came out with it specifically for having more technical hunting pant, but solids in the hunting world have become really big over the past couple of years. So we wanted to make sure that we had an offering in a solid, and we do have the camos as well. So the solid clay color came out in June of this past year. The OV camo came a little bit later, just due to we want to make sure we got that color just perfect on the pant.
Yep.
And this next year, we're actually bringing the Prevail pant in the original Caza camo, which is more of the greens and the browns.
Oh, okay.
That'll fit in with everybody's original assortment. Perfect for spring turkey, perfect for early season scouting, things like that, with more of those green colors. So same exact pant. It's going to be in solid in both camos. So I think that's going to be a good fit for everybody.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that because I'm coming into it midway through the year. So when I'm thinking about, the springtime, and there's so many different things to choose from, I might go with those Prevail pants and the Caza.
They are hard to beat. They really are. We have the whole Renegade line, which if it's really warm, depending on where you're turkey hunting, or even like early antelope hunting, things like that for early season, Renegade is perfect. It's got the super lightweight wicking fabric on both the tops and the pants. Very breathable, very lightweight. So definitely helps on those warm climates or those warmer days. The Prevail is going to be a little bit heavier, but
okay.
Well, so it just kind of depends on where you're at. I know for turkey season here in Missouri this past spring, I was out wearing Waypoint. Like, it was cold. I had layers on. I had gloves on. Like, it was cold for turkey season this year. So, we always think turkey, we think hot. We need something really lightweight. And sometimes that's the case. Sometimes you need something a little bit warmer. So those Prevails are really just so versatile, especially having those thigh vent zips on them to let the air flow in and out. So you'll get a lot of use out of them for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. And the patterns, like, I remember I hadn't seen this pattern yet. I only saw the Caza pattern, and I was really interested in it, and I wanted to try something else because I've been wearing Sitka for a couple of years, and nothing wrong with that, but I wanted to branch out and try different things. And I knew 3 other people that were wearing Pnuma, and they loved it. So I thought I'd give it a shot. And then as soon as I saw the Caza OV pattern, I said, guys, we're going to disappear in the tree in the fall. Once those leaves come down, you just blend into the bark. Like, it's amazing. It's so good.
And the actual camo pattern itself is the same with Caza and Caza OV as far as the the macro disruption and the micro shapes that we've got in there. So it's the same overall shape pattern. We just changed up the tone. So obviously with the original Caza, you have more of the greens and the browns, a little more brighter contrast there, which works great for spring and early season, or those more green environments. But to your point, once those leaves drop and everything turns brown, we wanted to make sure that we had something that kind of fit into that environment as well. And so that's where we kind of changed up the tones and the coloring, and brought in the OV, which is the optimum versatility. It really has been that. It's not only versatile for a late season whitetail pattern when you're in the woods and the trees have gone down, but it works great out west too, when you're on those more rocky open terrains where you don't have the green around you.
Right.
So it has turned out to be a very versatile pattern for us.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I'm also noticing that I'm wearing less.
Yeah.
I'm wearing a lot less layers. Like, when I had I usually have a merino layer that I put on, and then I'll have this on, and then I usually have the jacket, and that's it. And then when it gets colder, I threw on the heated core, and that just changed my life.
It really is. So, but before I ever came to Pnuma, first I was a heated core fan because I'm always cold. Like, I'm a woman, I hunt, but I'm always cold. And so I got into heated base layer probably my second year of hunting, just so that I could really stay out longer and into later season and not freeze and not feel like I had to wear so many layers. So I was a heated core fan before I ever came to Pnuma. And then that just kind of expanded into, oh, let me try out some of this Pnuma gear, and just absolutely fell in love with it. So it was one of those things that was like, man, like, I love this gear. I love the products. I love what they're doing with everything. Like, that's where I want to be. And so I really kind of pursued that. And that's how I ended up on the actual Pnuma team and being here and being part of it. And it's been great. But yeah, that heated core, man, anyone that tries that, like, you just become an instant fan. You can't go back from it. It's amazing. It completely changes how you're able to hunt, just from the, being able to go out in that colder temperatures or stay out longer, or not have to pack in a bunch of extra layers, or not have to have the bulk in the way, especially as a bow hunter. You don't need to be bulky. Like, it really is just amazing stuff.
Yeah. And it's made of this stretchy, it's got a nice elasticity to it. So it moves with you, and then it's got elements that are all in the right spot. Like, I remember the first time I turned it on, I felt it on my lower back, and I was like, oh no, I might fall asleep up here.
Oh, good. You're right in the right spots. And that's,
yeah. Yeah.
And that's why we call it heated cores. It's not just a basic heated base layer or vest or jacket that you typically see on the market. This was specifically designed really from a hunting perspective. And that really was seamless, so you don't have any seams causing any irritation when you're moving. It's got the wicking in there, so if you are getting warm, getting in and out of the stand, or when you're on the move, takes that away from you. But really having that very stretchy, durable material. It's not a compression top like an old school Under Armour top that people are used to, but it is very form-fitting. And the reason for that is it's designed to trap your own body heat against your skin. It's just efficient that way. Instead of another heated garment where you're losing that heat through just exposure to the air, it traps it right against your core. And where we have those heating elements, it is directly on those areas where warming up that core, it's going to circulate that warm blood throughout your whole body. So it's just super efficient. It has 3 levels. I don't know about you. I have never turned mine on high. I barely get mine up to medium. I turn that sucker up to medium for a couple of minutes, and I have to turn it back down to low. And that's me. I'm always cold, and I have never turned mine on high. Like, it's amazing that it's instant and it is so warm, even on the lower 2 settings. Like,
yeah. So it'll deliver heat depending on what setting you're on. Anywhere from, if you're on the high setting, it goes for about 2 hours. If you stay in that, which I don't recommend, you will turn it off before that. And if you go all the way out to the lowest setting, you'll get 6 hours out of one charge, which is amazing. So the first time I used it, I would put it on the red setting, which is the hottest one, and I just have it on for a bit, and then I shut it off.
Yeah.
And then a little bit later, I turn it on again, and then I shut it off. And then the other day, like, you just get so hot. It's like, okay. I put it on the yellow one, which is the middle. And I was like, it's like a slow burn. I was just like, oh, this is all right. Like, this is pretty, I'm going to wear this battery right out. And it was just, it was that little bit extra that I needed, because I was wearing the Ventus line, which I absolutely love.
Me too.
And it's not the high point, which is more of the cold stuff, but I find combining the two really worked. But it added that little bit of extra that you need, because I was fine with just the Ventus on. And then if there's a couple days where I stayed out for like 8 or 9 hours in the saddle, and I just needed that little bit of pick me up,
Yeah. I hunt primarily out of a saddle as well. So again, not having to pack in a bunch of extra layers or try to put different layers on while you're in the saddle, because that's always the fun part, is like, oh, now I got to put on these extra layers. Okay, well, I got to get it under this bridge and under this and get that on. And putting pants on with a saddle on in a platform, it's not impossible, because I've done it, but it's not fun. So being able to avoid that and just hit a button and like have that internal heat, so much easier.
Yeah, I was amazed that I really only had 3 layers and a jacket, and it was super light. You don't feel like you're walking around like a marshmallow person or anything. So yeah, that was awesome. How long has Pnuma been around for?
So I think originally it started in 2016, and it is a Texas-based company. So we're based out of Texas. It's changed hands a couple times, and it definitely started out driven more Western. And over the past, I'd say probably 3 or 4 years, the focus has really been on kind of reining in that assortment. What do we have? What do we have that's right? What do we miss? And this past year, we had a huge emphasis on whitetail because that was a big portion that we were missing in our assortment. And so, as you mentioned, the new OV pattern, we launched that this year. We also launched, I think, 27 new products this year, which is huge for a brand to launch that many new products in a season, as well as a new camo pattern. But we knew that if we were going to really focus on whitetail, we had to do it right, and we had to do it all at one time. We couldn't piecemeal it together. So we went all in on it, put out these whole product lines. You talk about the Ventus, which is our, specific for bow hunters. It's super quiet. It's got the tapered sleeves on there, so it's not getting in your way. It's completely windproof. Yeah. It's like my first time I put that on, I was like, this reminds me of like an old school Coleman sleeping bag. Like, you just never want to get out of it when you're camping. It's just warm and cozy and quiet and just perfect. And then obviously our Torrent line, we wanted to make sure that we had a waterproof option and offer kind of a midweight bib, because that's something that we've seen, across the market is, to your point, the high point is super heavy. Sometimes you just want that kind of midweight that you can tailor, add a little bit more to it or not. It gives you just a wider range of temperatures that you can use this product. But by having that waterproof membrane as well, you can be out there, whether it's raining or what we've seen a lot of snow, keeping yourself dry in the snow, can really make a huge difference if you're out there in certain climates. So having those in there and in the new OV pattern, obviously tailored more towards whitetail. And then you mentioned the high point. That is our super heavy insulated suit. And I know you have one. I know you've given me some feedback on that, but the feedback I've gotten across the board on that one is just that it's the warmest suit that these guys have ever worn. And I get pictures all the time when people just like sending me pictures of them like all cozy as about like in the tree.
Oh yeah.
Cold. It's such a great thing to hear. We're so proud of the products that we put out. We all use them. We're a small company that make up Pnuma. There's only 8 of us. We're all spread out across the country, but Amazing. We're all here because we're dedicated hunters, and we all came from other parts of the industry, and we all came here because we believed in this product and this is what we wanted to do. And so it's so fun to be able to see this product get out there and get this feedback, and just across the board, just getting this just phenomenal feedback on the product, and it just makes you so proud. Like, yeah, we did it. Like, we loved it. We want to make sure that everyone out there loved it too. So it's been really fun to go through this season and get all this new product out there in everybody's hands. Yeah,
you definitely can't go wrong with Berber fleece
right?
for warmth. But that hex fleece that's in the Ventus, that is amazing. And the hood, I wanted to mention that the hood tapered back is, there's been so many different types of camo that I've worn where you put the hood up and you're just you got tunnel vision now, because
tunnel vision, hood, you lose your peripherals, or it's too wide and it's like catching all the air and it's just getting the wind in your ears.
Cuts back in just the right spot, and you can literally, not only can you see out of your peripheral vision, like you turn your head and it doesn't cover your face. It's everything is very well thought out. So my hat goes off to your design team is amazing, because I remember when I was talking to CJ about it from the Full Draw podcast, he was like, I said, what do you have? And he's like, I have the Alpha Vertex stuff for. So I started looking at that. I'm like, okay, that looks really good. And then you're scrolling down. You're like, oh, but they have this too. And oh, they got a puffy jacket. It's like, oh man, I don't know. There's so many different things.
The Alpha Vertex is the first suit that I had with Pnuma before I started here. And that's the one I fell in love with. And it's still my favorite suit. Don't get me wrong. I love my Ventus. I really do. But man, that Alpha Vertex suit, the jacket and the pant on there, because it's got that high fleece on the inside, not Berber, but just like the soft high pile fleece. It's like wrapping yourself in a fuzzy blanket. Like, it is so warm in there, and it's got the quilting on it, and it's just so cozy and so trim, so tailored. I find that a lot of apparel out there just gets so bulky. And again, as I'm a small frame, I'm 5'4", and I'm out there in a saddle with a bow. Like, I can't have bulk in the way. There's just enough going on as it is. And so that Alpha Vertex suit is what made me honestly fall in love with Pnuma. And it's still my favorite. I love it.
Another one I want to try is the Gunnison Merino hoodie.
You don't have one of those yet?
No.
My man, that is that is
I hear that's the one to get.
That is everybody's favorite piece. I don't care what suit you want. The one piece that everybody has that you have to have is that Gunnison hoodie. It's a 300 GSM merino wool hoodie. I mean,
Wow.
you got to have it. It's a, whether that's your only outer layer, that honestly, most of the time, like early season, that's all I'm wearing. I'm just wearing that out. I don't have any other outer layers. I don't need it. But with that being that merino wool, it regulates your temperature enough while you're out. You don't need any other layers. And then it just continues as part of my layering system. As it gets colder, I just put additional layers on top, but I still have that merino wool in there. So if I need to shed layers, I know I still have that in there. It's just so versatile.
I've also noticed that it doesn't, I mean, I've been wearing this a lot, and I think I've only washed some of it once, and it doesn't smell, not that I smell normally, but when you're out there, like if you're out at a deer camp and you don't have a shower around and you're out of cell phone service and you're up there for, a week or longer, you're not washing anything. And I did that a couple of times already, and it's amazing. Like usually you get that with straight merino, and like more of the synthetics will start to kind of turn on you, but I haven't noticed that at all with any of this stuff, which is awesome.
Yeah, so across the line, we treat everything with a combination of Polygiene, Stay Fresh, and Odor Crunch. And so it's a two-part system here. The Stay Fresh is actually a silver ion-based technology that eliminates the odor-causing bacteria. So it prevents the actual bacterial growth that causes body odors. And then you have the Odor Crunch in there, which is microsilica particles, which absorb any exterior odor. So say you're coming in contact with smoke or something like that, it'll actually absorb those odors as well. Oh, wow. And then it pulls them out of the fabric, and it's all built into the fabric. It's all pre-treated for you, and that actually lasts you the life of the garment. So it's not something that you're having to constantly spray down with descent, sprays of all those brands that are out there. You don't have to put it in an ozone tank, which actually degrades fabric. That's something across the board. Yes, it does work, but it's going to degrade your fabric, especially anything with any kind of elastic or elastane, and it breaks that down. So you're actually degrading your fabric, and you're losing life out of the fabric, or the life of that garment.
That's interesting. I've never heard that before.
That's it's true. It will break it down. So it works great for eliminating odors, but
there's a cost to it, right?
Cost to it for sure. So by using these natural properties that Polygiene has put together and using them in conjunction, it does work phenomenal. We have that on the heated core base layer as well, which I can tell you, I wear that whether I need it or not. I wear that as my base because it's just good to have on there. Just that peace of mind that if I get chilled, I know I can hit that button. I wear that as my base layer all season long. I'm a bow hunter, so I'm out there for 3 months or more. I wash that maybe twice a season. Yep. You just don't need it. And even with it being a base layer and right against your skin, it is amazing how well Polygiene does eliminate those body odors from your fabric. So I've got a giant duffel bag, and that's where all of my camo and gear lives. And then I put it on to go hunt, and I come home and I go straight back in the bag. Nothing goes into the wash. It just goes back in the bag, and I don't think about it because I'm lazy like that. And it works though. And it's fantastic how well it works.
And it can still be used as a base layer, like you said, even though it does have an element sit through it. In case people are wondering, it's not like you have to layer it over top of things because there's a heated part of it. It's actually designed.
So, our heated core uses an undetectable carbon fiber heating element. So unlike a lot of them out there that you'll see that have like a copper wire, some of the old ones that did that, where it's very obvious, here's the wire, and you touch it and it's hot because it's it's the way the carbon fiber is woven through the material. One, you don't feel there's no stiff, there's nothing weird. It's very durable, but it gives you a very even heat distribution too. And you can have that directly against your skin. You're not going to get that burning sensation. Like you're going to feel warm because of how efficient it is and it's trapping that body heat. But to your point, there isn't like a very, easily identifiable wire that's going to, heat up extra in one spot or another. It's very evenly distributed.
And this is probably also one of my favorite spots. The fact that you build the thumb loops into the material is so key. Like I've worn other garments that have a separate piece that's sewn in, and as soon as I looked at it, I'm like, that's gonna fail at some point, right? But having it first, I love. Some people don't like the thumb holes. I personally do, but the fact that they're built right into the sleeve already is awesome. That's just
Yeah.
little things with me that I just love, right?
Even if you're only wearing it for that 2 seconds that you're putting it through a sleeve of a jacket and then you take it off, the point is that it's constructed like that when you don't have your thumb going through that hole. You don't notice it. There's no gap there. It's not like the ones that are sewn in on the side where now you have this hole where you're getting air, right on your wrist. Like it covers itself back up. You don't notice it. You don't feel any, any air coming through. So it's a pretty strategic design, but it works.
And I want to say everything, but at least almost everything is DWR treated. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So obviously, the big thing about hunting is just keeping dry, whether that's internal or external. So, I mentioned that the heated core base layer has wicking in it, as does the Renegade Swift that you've got there. That's a wicking material. All of the Renegade super lightweight stuff is got high wicking factors in there as well. Because again, it's eliminating moisture, whether that's external or internal. Moisture is what makes you cold. So you're having the durable water repellent treatment on the exterior of the fabrics, even the ones that are waterproof, like our Torrent that I mentioned, it has a fully waterproof membrane, but we still put that DWR treatment on the outside because if you can prevent that water from soaking through that outer layer of fabric, you're just going to extend how long it basically keeps it from wetting out. So even though it's not going to get through that barrier, it's still going to prevent you from basically turning into a sponge and having that exterior fabric hold all that water weight.
And I can say for a fact, I was in the saddle. It was one of those days I was up there for about 9 hours, and it was in late October, and I went from sun to rain to snow, back to rain, back to snow, back to rain, back to sun for that 9 hours. And nothing penetrated, nothing, like everything. I was perfectly fine. Now, some people have asked me, like, can I wear it in a snowstorm, or can I wear it in, if it's teeming rain? And I would say the DWR will only go so far. So if you know that you're going to be out in a torrential downpour, put some rain gear on, right? And you guys have specific rain gear as well.
Our rain gear is phenomenal. The 3L rainwear, I've been around a lot of rain suits and this one is probably the most phenomenal membrane that I found, where yes, it is completely waterproof, but it is also incredibly stretchable, which is surprising for a waterproof membrane. But it's also incredibly breathable. One of the worst things about having a rain suit on is it traps any of your body moisture inside of you. So it's trying to keep it dry from the outside, but it's trapping that moisture on the inside, which doesn't do you any good. You need to let that moisture breathe out. And so it is a one-way moisture barrier fabric. So anything that you're perspiring inside, it's still going to get that moisture out. It's got great stretch, so you still have that mobility if you're on the move. Easily over your garments, has tight fitting cuffs, so you're not worried about water falling down your sleeves if you're moving or anything like that. A lot of adjustments on the hood as well, so that again, you can keep it out of your eyes, but you can keep it down if the wind's blowing on you. So a lot of engineering went into those suits, but they are phenomenal for keeping you dry both inside and out.
Another couple pieces that I picked up after the fact, I didn't get it right at first, which I should have, but I waited till it got a little colder out, is
yes.
Oh my God.
Oh man, I was wearing that this past weekend.
This thing is amazing. For those who aren't watching, this is the Neck Gator, and it has Berber fleece in it and smart
breathing holes. And
holes.
Not only does it have the perforations there for breathing, which we know when you get that on is hard, but if you notice that fabric there too is not the Berber, it is the softer lower pile fleece, because we did that is part of the High Point line. That's the High Point Neck Gator. We also have a beanie that goes along with that, with the jacket and the pant. And what you'll notice on the jacket and the pant is, yes, the majority of it is that high Berber fleece on the exterior, but we did put specific panels on the inside of your arms and your legs where you have kind of those high movement friction points, or you just want to reduce some of that bulk, where we don't have the high pile fleece. We have a what am I thinking? Just kind of like the lighter fleece that you would see more kind of a typical fleece exterior. And that's what you have there on the inside of the the net gaiter as well. So instead of just a basic net gaiter with a strip of fabric, we thought about that, like having that comfortability. You don't want that tickling your nose and getting all up in your business. So we put that different fabric there. We put the perforations there so you can actually breathe while you have this thick fuzzy net gaiter on. And yeah, I was wearing that this past weekend. It was with the wind chill. I think it was 3 degrees while I was out on Friday here in northern Missouri, which, you know, that's nothing compared to what you have to deal with up there. But for me, it was pretty chilly. All right. So I put that thing on. It makes such a difference just keeping it off your neck and keep it from going down. Like, even if you've got your hood kind of pulled up and you got a beanie on, like, it's amazing how much air can kind of get in that gap, especially as you're turning your head, looking around.
It's amazing. And the fact that you don't, you know, get all soaked around your face because you've got it right up against the Berber. The fact that you guys put the regular fleece there, just again, well thought out by people who are using it for what it's made for. Like, it just goes a long way. And this might be my absolute favorite, is the hand warmer. This thing is amazing. Now, I have the gloves. I love the gloves. I got the Ventus gloves. They're fantastic too. They work with your phone, for those who are wondering. But it's the thing about gloves is that some people hate wearing gloves and will never wear gloves. You never want them to be too thick, but if they're too thin, they don't do their job either. So I found that this is like the perfect mix between both. And I just love these. But this, I don't need them when I have my hands in here.
For the most part, in there and stick your hands in, and you're golden. Like it's it's so cozy and warm. And again, with the saddle, sometimes depending on where your pockets are, or where I have a two panel saddle, so sometimes if I'm leaning back, that higher panel comes up, and sometimes it gets hard to get into my pocket. So having one of those hand warmers just kind of clipped around your waist, you can sit on top of your saddle, no matter where you kind of got that set. It makes it so easy to get in, especially if you've got a wrist release on in your hand, and just
I usually put it up a little higher than waist level, just so that it's like it's a little more comfortable that way. And I have had a release freeze on the string, so the mechanism, I drew back and I hit the button and it didn't work.
Oh no!
So sometimes I'll put it in here if it's super cold out. I'll put it in here with my hands just to keep it. And yeah, I love this thing. This is amazing.
Absolutely.
Oh, so many cool things. That's the thing. I'm looking through it. I remember I was talking to Gary about it too from Full Draw podcast, and he was like, I don't know what to buy. It's like there's so many things I want in here. Like, it's just it's awesome. It's so good. So how did you when did you first get into, I like trying to find out people's history a little bit. When did you first pick up a bow, and how did that kind of transition into bow hunting for you?
So honestly, this is only my 4th year hunting. I did not grow up hunting. No one in my family hunted. It wasn't something that I was really exposed to at all up until about 4 years ago. I moved from the West Coast to the Midwest, and lo and behold, everybody here hunts. And it kind of became this opportunity where now all of a sudden I had people around me that were willing to kind of mentor me and show me, and something that I'd always been interested in, but just never really had the opportunity to, pursue. So I picked up a bow and started shooting and played around with different stands. And first I had a ladder stand. I was like, well, then I can't move stuff around. So then I got a climber, and I'm like, this is really heavy to move in and out, and kind of a pain in the butt getting up a tree. And I'm like, I don't know about this. But I did that for kind of the first 2 years. And then I went to ATA, and that's when I really got introduced to more of the mobile hunting and the saddles. And so after ATA, that's when I got my first saddle set and climbing sticks and whatnot. And that was just a complete game changer for me, because it just gave me this mobility that I could go anywhere. And one of the ways that I've grown in hunting as much as I have in these short years is I've traveled a lot and hunted with a lot of different people. You can watch listen to podcasts, you can watch YouTube videos and things, but it's so much different to just get outside and do it. And especially learning from people firsthand. And what I've realized is everybody's got a different way of doing things, the different things that they focus on, different ways that they get in and out, or, how long they sit or when they sit. And so having a mobile setup means I can just throw everything in my car, and I know I can fit it on my bag, and I can get up a tree wherever I need to be. And it's given me that flexibility to travel and hunt with different people and different terrain and all kinds of different environments. And it's been great. I mean, I won't lie. I'm not going to tell you the saddle is the best thing out there, or it's perfect for every situation. It's not. Like, there are days I just want to sit in a hang on
Yeah.
and like be cozy and lean up against the back of the tree. Like, don't get me wrong, but it's given me the ability to travel so much more, knowing that I have a setup that I can get up pretty much any tree by myself real quick. And that's been super fun for me.
Just want to take a quick break to talk to you about a couple of things that I've been using that I think might benefit you. One is this Pnuma Outdoors gear. This is in their Caza OV pattern, which is great whitetail pattern when you're up in a tree in the fall and late season. They also have a Caza pattern which has more green in it, which is good for spring through to the fall. Pnuma has given me a code to give to you of Caribou Media 20, which will save you 20% at checkout. Another product here that I've been using for years now is the Bulldog targets. This is a Canadian made target. They're made in Manitoba. They have a lifetime warranty. I've used that warranty twice now on a couple of my larger targets that are outside. It's very simple, very easy. These targets are 2-finger removal every single time, which is incredible. Field point only target. Bulldog's been gracious enough to give me a 20% discount code to give to you at checkout. Use code BD20-Caribou-Media. That'll save you 20% on these awesome targets. Now back to the show.
Yeah, so I only started 6 years ago myself, and I first started shooting. I first got introduced to archery when I was 7. We were on a family vacation. I was kind of introverted, didn't like trying new things. And we're at this resort that had a lot of outdoorsy things. You could go to the boat dock and get, learn how to flip a kayak or there's swimming lessons and stuff. Anyway, they had archery behind the gym, after lunch from 1 to 2. So my mom was like, "Oh, you should go." And I'm like, "No, I don't want to go." And we had some friends up there, and one of my friends was the opposite of me. And she's like, "No, we're going to go, and it's going to be fun." So we went, loved it. Kind of got hooked from a young age, and then I did a recurves in high school, and then I completely went away from it, and not on purpose. It's just the way life went.
Yeah, life happens.
And then my friend called me one day, and he was like, he and I were on the archery team in high school, and he's like, "I just picked up this thing called a compound bow." He's like, "You got to check this out. You got to check this out." So. And then we moved from the suburbs to the country, and then everybody up here is a hunter, right? And so I'm helping to coach my son's hockey team, and both assistant coach and the other assistant coach, they're hunters, right? So you kind of get into it that way. And then my wife's cousin owns 300 acres way up north, so he invited me up, and it was kind of like, I had a rifle at the time, and he was like, "Sit in that ladder stand and don't move until it gets dark." I'm like, "Okay." So I did that, and I liked being outside, and I liked doing like the idea around what we were trying to do, but I wasn't connecting to the rifle. And it's not that I didn't like the rifle. I shoot rifles. I own rifles. For that purpose, that wasn't really jiving with me. And then the next year I bought a compound, and it's just been like full speed ahead.
100% understand that. The first 2 years when it was rifle season, I was like, well, like, I really like shooting the bow, but if I have the opportunity with the rifle, I should probably take it for this time period. And both years I ended up shooting a buck during rifle season with the rifle. And both of those I could have got with the bow. And I was kicking myself because I was like, here they are coming in, because they were coming in when I was rattling and grunting at them, and like I could get them in close enough. It's like, I could have taken both of these with the bow, but I took the rifle. And it's fine. I got the deer, but it kind of nagged at me, that same reason. Like, I just didn't feel like I connect with the rifle as much as I do with the bow. And so then last year I just stuck with the bow, and I actually got my buck during rifle season with my bow. Nice. And it felt so much better, like, just be like, all right. Cause you gotta have so much more woodsmanship, I feel like, to really get on with the bow. because you don't have that range. You know, there's so many things that could go wrong with the bow. Like,
Yep.
you know, we all hear stories, and we've all been there where we've made a bad shot, or we've completely missed, or, you know, something goes wrong, and that's part of it. And it's brutal. You know, I had that happen to me this year. And it's never fun in the moment, but there's just something about bow hunting compared to being out there with a rifle. You just feel so much different about it.
Just being like you said, we have to get so much closer, and you get to experience. It just kind of feels like you're experiencing the event, this whole situation even more, because you have to be quiet, you have to be still. You're watching their movements. You can see the hair is moving. Like the first animal I shot was a bear. It was a black bear. I just got this bow. I'd shot it for a few months. We went up to this same property I talked about, and literally I got up there later than I wanted to. I was up in the tree stand. Within an hour, a bear walked out. Like, just unheard of. This is not supposed to be this way. And he walked, and I heard there was a river behind where I was, so I could hear like the splashing through the river, and I knew there was a beaver back there because he was causing all hell, throughout the week, and he'd slap his tail on the water. So I thought maybe that's what it is. And then out walks this bear, and he took a few steps towards we had a bait barrel out there, and he kind of stood up and he stood up on his hind legs, put his nose in the air, and then just did like a complete turn and went back down and started walking back the way he came, because he winded me. So I had like this small window, and I shot, and I'd never practiced shooting from at a high angle before, and the shot was high. He took off running. He ran past a tree, which snapped the rest of the arrow off, and there was no blood. We searched for hours that night, came back in the morning with more people, grid searched. We never found it. So the first animal I ever shot, I never found, which was a horrible experience. And eventually, if you do this long enough, it'll happen to you.
Yep.
But I was all in at that point. Like, it's just that whole, and I wish I hadn't started recording anything back then. So that kind of ignited the whole, I wish I could see where the shot was. And I want to relive that whole experience. So do you have a hunting story from this year, or memorable that you want to talk about?
I mean, I've had some stories this year. Nothing all that exciting, unfortunately. Some misses and some losses, and just a whole lot of sitting in trees staring at squirrels. But I did shoot one with my bow, though, because he was driving me crazy. So I got a squirrel at 30 yards. Woo! That was actually my first saddle kill. So
I always tell myself, don't shoot the squirrel. You're here for the bear, or you're here for the deer, and eventually you just do it because they're driving you nuts.
Yeah, you just have to. No, I did get a doe here with my bow a couple weeks ago, and it was great. I knew I had to kind of keep an eye on this area, and I knew a lot of their travel patterns. They had a couple different ways where they cross over my property onto the neighbor's property to get to a pond. They go over there, and then they kind of come back. And so I was sitting, and she starts coming down. She had her yearling with her, and I knew exactly what trail she was on and where she was going to go. And so I was able to, I knew, she's going to pass behind this tree. There's my shot to draw. Then she steps out, and I'll get to take my shot. And so everything kind of just lined up the way I needed it to. Took my shot, and I watch her kind of take off, and I actually see her bed down on the opposing ridge. So I'm watching through my binoculars, and I see her bed down. She didn't crash. She just laid down. I could see her head still popping up occasionally. Her yearling was kind of circling around her, but I'm like, that's all right. Like, she's down, give her time. She'll be fine. I'm like, this is great. I don't have to track her. I can see her. I know right where she is.
She's right there.
She's right there. Like, this is going to be easy. Like, done deal, And as I'm watching, this spike shows up, and the spike starts pawing at her while she's on the ground. She's been down for about 15 minutes at this point. He starts pawing at her and harassing her, so she gets up.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, what are you doing? Don't bump
Get out of here.
You little turd. And
you're not invited.
through my binos, I see her start walking across this ridge with him hot on her tail, just harassing her. And I'm like, no, like there she goes. And I'm like, she was down, like I said, for a good 15 minutes. I'm like, she may not be bleeding anymore. Like she could have clotted while she was laying down. Like who knows if there's going to be any trail to follow this. So I watch her go across this ridge, and then I hear a commotion. I lose sight of them up in the trees. I hear a commotion, and I'm like, please let that be her, like crashing. Like let that be her falling down. Didn't hear anything after that for a while. Didn't see anything. So eventually I get down, pull my stuff, and I wanted to make sure she had enough time. But I wanted to get to where she bedded down and see if there was any trail leading away from that up the ridge. So easy to track to where she got, found my arrow broke, went all the way through her, but the end had snapped off, found both pieces, got to where she had bedded down. And then I'm like, all right, I know I saw her go this way. That was, if I had not seen her, I would have thought she got abducted by aliens. There was no blood trail leading away from that spot. Luckily, I knew where she went, and she was headed uphill. So I think eventually she knocked out that clot or just enough, and I started finding little just pin drops of blood. And I mean like pin drops of blood. And so I tracked it enough to where I knew this was the trail where she was going up. It wasn't intermingled with where she came in. Left a marker there, came back a little bit later after I had changed. I shot this doe at 7:52 in the morning. I did not find her until 2:00 that afternoon. Wow. Because tracking her across this 20 acres, she made it from one side all the way to the other side, took forever, just little pin drops. I did get to the spot where I heard that commotion. She wasn't there, but I think she was trying to get away from that spike. She was like going through all these little tight, narrow branches and in between these little saplings and trees to like dodge him. She got to a downed tree. Instead of going around it, she went right through it. And I think she tripped and fell because all of a sudden there was like this big kind of blood splatter and a decent amount of blood trail leading out from that for a little bit. So I'm like, oh, that's what it was. She didn't go down. She was just tripping over trees. So it was brutal. I was like, I'm not going to find this thing. I was looking everywhere. I'm like, where could she possibly be at this point? And then it's always that kind of like last moment where you're like about to give up, and all of a sudden you look up and you're like, she's laying right there, like 10 minutes, and you're just like this sense of relief of like, whew, like, because I knew she was dead, but I just didn't know if I'd find her or if she'd cross into somebody else's property at that point, and so it took all day, but luckily it was a beautiful day for it, and I was able to find her and then get her. I hung her up for the night and broke her down the next morning, and now she's in the freezer. So it was a heck of a day, but made it happen. And it's one of those things where you're like, yeah, if I had shot her with the rifle, she probably would down easy and make it easy. But you just can't beat doing it with the bow. There's just something about it. It just makes it all worthwhile.
Yeah, it's awesome. What kind of a bow are you using?
I have a Hoyt Eclipse. I got that I bought that for myself for my birthday last summer. That was my birthday present to myself. When I first got into hunting, I didn't know. I was just like, what bow should I get? And so I went to Bass Pro and got one that had a big range of weight, so I could kind of like build up, getting used to it and whatnot. And I was like, all right, like I want to go actually try out some different bows. And so there's a couple archery shops here where I'm at, and I basically just went and tried out 4 or 5 different bows to kind of get a feel for what I liked and what felt right. And that Eclipse was just like butter in my hands. Just like, oh man, this feels good. Once you get that, do this again and again. Like this is the one. So it's been great, and it's she's done her job. So can't complain there.
Do you have a favorite broadhead that you keep going back to, or?
No, I've tried out a couple different ones over the years. I don't know that I've found anything that I'm honestly really in love with. I think there's kind of pros and cons to all of them, one way or another. And quite honestly, I've just I don't think I have enough deer under my belt to say like, oh yeah, this one definitely performs better for me than this one. I'm still in that kind of experimental stage. So yeah, no favorites there yet.
No. I also wanted to mention there is 100% lifetime warranty Getting back to Pnuma. Sorry, we drifted a little bit, which is fine. That's good. That's how these things go. But stand
Yeah,
behind your craftsmanship.
mhm.
Anything wrong with anything, lifetime.
Yeah, and that's another reason why, like I said before, I was a fan of Pnuma before I joined the team, and that was part of it. Where there's a lot of great brands out there making some great stuff. You can't dodge that. You can't
Yep.
you can't diss them by any means. But to have a company that just comes right out and says, we will repair or replace your gear for life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that says so much, not only about the quality of the products, but the level of customer service, that we give to our customers. We don't want you to just buy a piece and never see you again. We want you to come back and buy that next piece and buy another one and buy another one because you love it and it lasts and it's good quality. And if there is anything that happens to it, we don't want you to have to start from scratch or start over. Like, we want to maintain you as a customer for life. And that speaks volumes. And so, yeah, that's something that we definitely, as a brand, that we promote both to direct to consumers and to, potential dealers, that because I think showing that we offer that to our customers also from a dealer perspective says, like, hey, like, we're here to, support you as a dealer. Like, yes, we want you to carry our products, but we're going to support you so that you can be successful selling our products and educating the customer. Like, it's a partnership. And that's how Pnuma operates with everything, with our dealers, with our consumers, with our affiliates. And it is a partnership. And that's something that you don't see a whole lot in the world these days.
Right. Absolutely. And I know that for those who are possibly listening from Canada, I've had a few messages about shipping to Canada. I know that you guys are working on it. We have found a workaround until that happens. Peyton Golden, one of my friends, he introduced us to this, and it's a website called shipsy.com, not affiliated Shipsy whatsoever. They're fantastic. Basically what happens is you create an account with them. They give you a US address that you can ship your order to. Once it gets there, you send in your invoice or a picture of your receipt. They will calculate the tax and the duty that you have to pay. You pay them, and then you decide whether you want it to get shipped to your house, or if you want to pick it up. They have a few locations once you get over the border that you can go and pick it up from. And it's been amazing. I've ordered a ton of things from the US and used Shipsy, even though there has been shipping to Canada, because I have found some, not to put any of the other shipping companies on blast or anything, but there are some that will, I feel, charge a little bit more than what you should actually be paying. And I haven't had that with Shipsy. So I'm going to continue to route all my stuff through there.
Yeah, we were glad that you actually brought that to us, because it's been something that has been probably the number one question that we get through our customer service portal or any of our social media accounts is, when are you guys going to have international shipping to Canada? We get that question a lot, and it's been something that should be a simple fix, but it has not been, and it's just been a complete hassle to get it. Not so much that we can't make it happen, but to your point, it just seems like the fees and the duties are just, they're outrageous and so hard to calculate. It seems like they change. There's no consistency to it. So we as a company don't want to, set a preset dollar, like, okay, well, if you're ordering internationally, you're going to have to pay this much up front. Like, we want it to be fair to the customer. But they sure as heck don't make that easy. And every time we kind of tried running some orders through, there seemed to be a problem every single time, one way or another. So it's definitely something that we are still working on. We want to get to that point. We're just looking at, different opportunities of how can we, work through this situation. And so for right now, Shipsy seems to be a fantastic option. I know you've used it. A couple of the other guys you've mentioned have used it. They've also used it to do returns when they, wanted to swap something out for a different size. It seems to work just as easy there too. I know CJ mentioned that to me. He's like, yeah, I was able to turn that in and swap out, get the right size, and wasn't an issue at all. So, from a customer service standpoint for us, it's hard for us to kind of hand over anything to another company, because customer service is so important to us. So we wanted to make sure that, yes, it worked good both ways before we really kind of started, offering that as a solution. But yeah.
And they're fantastic to deal with. Like I've emailed them a couple of times about a question I might have, and they'll get back to you on the weekend. Like somebody is monitoring that, and it's like, bam, within either same day or the next day, you'll get a response. It's been pretty good. So basically, once you submit your invoice and you pay your whatever fees you have to pay, you'll get a little message that says it's making its way to the border, and then once it gets over, it'll say it's making its way to you, and it's very fast. It's very good. So if you are in Canada and you want to purchase anything from Pnuma Outdoors or anywhere in the States, try using Shipsy. Sounds like this is a commercial and I work for them. I definitely do not. I definitely do not, but
they're not affiliated with Shipsy. We just appreciate
way to go. Is there anything? Well, there's a couple of things I wanted to ask. When it comes to putting the patterns on different types of material, do you find that is it harder with some and easier with others to get the colors right or anything like that? Or is it...
I know I mentioned earlier the Prevail pant. We launched it this year, both in the solid clay color and the Caza OV. We didn't get the Caza OV pants in until October, simply because that fabric, when we were printing the camo on it, it was coming out, the colors were coming out very red. Instead of the browns and the grays, it was coming out with more of a reddish tint. Anytime you are printing, whether it's a wet print or a dry print for camo on a fabric, the type of fabric is going to absorb and hold those dyes differently, not just from color, but from also saturation and whether it's got a lot of stretch to it. And as you know, that Prevail pant is a 4-way stretch fabric.
So good.
So
feels like you're not wearing pants. It's so good.
Yeah, I mean, every fabric, has a different textile strength, different stretch, different properties about it that are going to print differently, which is why when you look, especially it's like fleece, whether it's like just kind of a standard fleece or the high loft Berber, that looks so much different than like the Renegade Swift that you're wearing. It's the exact same camo, it's the exact same file, it's the exact same Pantones, but it prints so much different on those different materials. So that's something that can actually be pretty difficult when you're talking about doing camo printing for different fabrics in a line, is keeping that camo consistent, not only from the look of it, but the color can be very difficult to really keep. And that's why production time takes so long with these. And sometimes products do get delayed, like the OV. It was worth it to us to make sure that it came out in the correct color rather than getting out here earlier when we originally wanted it. It's again, that's part of the quality control that we're trying to do to make sure that everything looks the same. It's all going to match when you're wearing it out in the field. Right. Not that the deer care. I get it. The deer don't care. They don't care if you're matching camos or mixing or wearing solids or spray paint stuff from Walmart. Nobody cares, but us. But as a brand, we want to make sure that we are delivering a consistent product, so that whether you're buying everything now or you're piecing it together over multiple seasons, it's all going to be cohesive.
Right. And they also have solid colors too. I was looking at some of the pieces. I'm like, I might buy that just to wear all the time.
Exactly.
So I don't walk into the store and someone's like, why is that guy wearing camo?
Well, and here's something you got to consider is, yes, as a hunter, we think about hunting all the time, but our hunting seasons are actually pretty darn short compared to the total amount of the year. And even in those seasons, the amount of days that you are out in the field actively hunting can be pretty minimal depending on where you're at and what you're pursuing. Absolutely. But we get used to these quality garments that we're wearing out in the field, the fabrics, the articulation, the features that are on them, that fit and function that you're getting out of this technical garment. We want to wear that all the time. We don't want to go back to wearing, just a scratchy t-shirt and jeans that don't fit. Like, we get used to this quality gear when we're hunting. We don't want to feel like we're downgrading the rest of the time. So that has definitely been something that has changed a lot in the market, is you see people wearing their hunting brands year round. But yeah, to your point, you don't want to be running out to Walmart head to toe in camo all the time. A little camo here and there is great, but let's tone it down. Let's do a little mix and match here. So that's definitely something we've seen a lot more in the market. It's something that we're doing at Pnuma too. I mentioned this past year, we launched a whole new camo line and a whole bunch of new products. Going into 2025, we do have some really new, exciting products that are coming out. But what we're also doing is kind of expanding some of our existing product lines into additional solids and or the additional camo pattern. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, so you'll be able to get some of those staple pieces in multiple colors now instead of just one, to kind of give you that versatility, whether you're going from early season to late season or you do want it more of a lifestyle everyday piece.
Awesome. Are there anything new that you can talk about, or is it still...
We will be at ATA here in Indianapolis, January 8th through the 10th. Yep. And we will be kind of unveiling our new product that we're launching this year. I'm not going to give away too many details on it. We will have information coming, but it's definitely one of those pieces that you just kind of have to have no matter what you're doing or where you're going. It's just so versatile that it becomes a staple. Yeah. You gotta want it. And again, it's one of these things I'm lucky enough to be on the backside of this where I get to, be involved in product development and field testing and get the feedback from people that are field testing some of these products. And I have not gotten a more immediate response from every single field tester than, oh my God, I love this. I'm wearing it constantly. And I'm like, well, don't wear it too much because you can't post pictures of it yet. But
yeah. Be careful.
But I want to. I'm like, I know, guys. You got it.
Don't be that person. Don't be that person.
So, it's a really great piece, and it's going to fit perfectly in the line with what we need. And then again, just kind of expanding on the color options in some of the core styles.
Awesome. Can't wait. Oh, exciting. Awesome. Okay. Well, we're coming up to getting close to an hour here. I don't want to talk your ear off all night, but thank you very much for coming on. Let everybody know how they can find you and Pnuma Outdoors.
Yeah, so we're at pnumaoutdoors.com. Come check us out on the website. Obviously, we have everything listed out there, all the different styles. And if you do want to reach out to customer service, his name's Scott. He's awesome. So again, small company, small people, but we take it very seriously. So if you do reach out to that customer service number, if you have any questions about the products or the warranty or anything really, that you have a question on, please reach out to us. We're more than happy to answer questions and talk product. It's what we all love to do all the time. And if it's something where, obviously I want to get as many people wearing Pnuma as I can. So if it's something where you're interested in maybe becoming an affiliate or an ambassador, there's a link on there as well, and that'll come directly to me, and we can get in touch. And the more people I've got wearing my brand out there and falling in love with it, it is a natural way for us to get that awareness out there, and it's more authentic. And that's something that we've really tried to work on, is brand awareness by being authentic with the people that are wearing our brand because they love it, they like the products, they believe in the products. They're going to naturally tell people how awesome it is. We don't have to force it. Our products speak for themselves. They're phenomenal. So again, check us out at pnumaoutdoors.com. We've got everything there. And we're always happy to hear from everybody and talk gear, talk product. And we'll be at some more consumer shows this year. Like I said, we'll be at ATA, which is more of a dealer show. But we'll be at all the ASA tournament shows in the States this year. We'll be at the most expos this year. So we will be attending more consumer shows so we can get the product out in front of people.
Amazing. That's great. Yeah, I definitely love it. And you're amazing to deal with. So I'm so happy we've been able to connect, and I'm happy I'm wearing this stuff, and I can't wait to see what's coming out. And I'm sure I'll be buying that and wearing that every day too. So.
You're going to love it. I know it.
All right. Thanks again for coming on. And I do throw a little ad in the middle of this thing, but if anybody wants to order anything off the website, use code Caribou Media 20 to save yourself 20%.
Absolutely.
Shameless plug for me. Okay. Thank you. And have a good night.
Thank you.